my name is Singh. Today my presentation is titled Migration in the 20th Century and its impact on future generations' identity and belonging. So my research question is, how does migration in the 20th century impact the cultural identity and sense of belonging of future generations? So before I start, I want you to imagine you are forced to leave your home country. You have to leave behind your family, your culture, your language, and move to a country where you don't know the culture, the language, or the people. Or let's say your parents had to leave you and find a job in a different country so they could provide for you and your siblings. Well, in the 20th century, this was the reality for millions of people around the globe. So I want to start off by explaining why migration matters in the 20th century. So the 20th century was a time of global change. Wars, colonization, and economic shifts forced people to move from or leave their home countries. Some of these people chose to leave, but the majority of the people had to leave by force. And migration changed how how individuals felt about who they were, and I'll be talking more about this in the upcoming slides. So first I want to talk about children who stayed behind. So in the 20th century, many parents had to find jobs in different countries to provide for their families, and they couldn't bring their children with them because of financial or legal reasons. And the children left behind often dealt with emotional strain and role shifts. For example, they dealt with the feeling of abandonment, and they also had pressure from having to take care of their younger siblings or having to do household chores that they shouldn't be doing at such a young age. And this feeling of being far away from their parents, the people who are supposed to take care of them while they're growing up, and being responsible and wanting a connection with their parents, but not being able to get the connection they wanted when they were younger, becomes a part of who they are, and it affects their relationships and their communication skills. So second generation, now I want to talk about second generation immigrants. So second generation immigrants are people who are born in the country that their parents migrated to. So this isn't talked about often, but second generation immigrants also, migration also affects them, even though they were born in a new country. It affects them because their identity is shaped by their parents' past, meaning the parents' parenting style could be a reflection of their trauma or what they went through. So Baser and Toivonen wrote an article about post-memory, and post-memory is basically where children inherit the trauma, stories, or silence of their parents without living through it themselves. And they have confusion trying to balance the culture that they live in and also the one that their family is trying to hold on to, and their values and morals. A good example of this is the stimulus source In My Mother's House by Rachel Gonsa. She explores the significance of memory in shaping family and personal identity, and she reflects on the ways in which memories are passed on to generations, and illustrating how they can both preserve and complicate a family's collective narrative. Okay, third, I want to talk about forced migrants adapting identity. So forced migrants, like refugees, often have to reshape their identity to blend into their new cultural and social environments. For example, they have to, so they might act differently in their workplace while trying to hold on to their traditional values at home. And this is called code switching. So code switching is basically when they when they go from one identity to another based on where they are and who they're with. And while this helps them adapt to their new environment, and it also overwhelms them because they have this, they feel immense pressure trying to fit into 2 different places. So the counter argument is, some argue that migration makes people stronger, more independent, but pain and loss still leaves deep marks in them. So while while migration makes some people stronger, we also have to consider the pain and the sacrifices they had to go through to be able to get to the country that they're in. And growth and trauma, they go hand in hand. So ignoring the pain often oversimplifies what they go through. Okay, so migration's lasting impact on identity. So in conclusion, migration didn't only affect where people lived, but it also transformed their identity and the future generations' identity as well. And this impact, again, it lasts for generations because the trauma, it just keeps building up. And a solution for this, or a way we can help immigrants who are struggling with like identity crisis or are having a hard time, is by giving them a platform where they can share their stories and where we can allow the younger generation and the older generation to talk about their stories and turn pain into transformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. How did your research question evolve as you moved through the research process?
Okay, so at first my research question was I focused more on like the 20th century and how it affected the people who migrated. But I decided to change my research question to how it affected the future generation as well.
Okay, thank you. And what additional questions emerged from your research, and why are those questions important?
Okay, so an additional research question that emerged is, how can we help these immigrants who are struggling with their identity? And I think this is a very important question, because if I feel like they're can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
What additional questions emerged from your research, and why are those questions important?
Okay, again, a research question that emerged is, how can we help these immigrants or migrants who are struggling with their self-identity and belonging? And this is important because we also need to think about the struggles that they go through, because it could affect future generations, and to stop toxic what's that word? To stop toxic cycles, we need to allow them to be able to talk about what's on their minds.
Thank you.